Welcome back to Ram Dragon Studio. This is Ram Dragon, and just got back from a job search meeting, actually, a networking opportunity I had. Unfortunately, a lot of the networking opportunities are for professionals in the medical and oil industry. Down here in Houston, that's pretty much 90% of the job base. And not a lot of the professionals had too much advice or even contacts to give for an artist. Either way, worked on this yesterday. It is October 2nd. It is time for a new drawing. And yesterday I didn't go into inks at all, but today brought some pens. Well, I say brought. I got them from an arm's reach away off camera over by my computer. But they're here, so we can do some inking, possibly. Yesterday, I noticed, I don't know if anybody noticed, but when I was switching between my 4H and my 2B pencil to get some darker shadows, I wasn't having very good luck. And it took me a little while to realize it was because what I had been using was a 2H. And it's only slightly less hard than the 4H, so I thought I was in the right direction, just not far enough. But I kept drawing with it anyway, rather than checking it to make sure. And that was my mistake. I should have double checked it, but I've got a handful of pencils here, got a whole tin off to the side, so it's not like the pencils weren't available, I just was not paying attention. So let's go ahead and get started. Let me get first things first, close everything sensitive on my phone just in case it comes up on camera again. And we're going to go to an app I downloaded just yesterday, which name I forget what it's called. What to Draw. And this is a free app. I think I mentioned yesterday, this is a free app in the Google Play Store. I'm sure it's also available on in the Apple App Store, or something similar to it. All it does is it generates a random theme for you. It's Halloween, so let's go with terror today. I'm going to go with a random phrase of low complexity. Let's go with a medium complexity. I think yesterday we had some good warm-up. I haven't done any warm-up exercises today yet. And as I said yesterday, I was going to have that meeting this morning. I was expecting to get this filmed at 10 o'clock this morning and have it up before noon. But it's going up now. Let's see. I don't have anybody in my chat room yet. That's perfectly fine. I don't have a way to really chat with my chat room easily. A witch/warlock killing an exorcist. A swarm of birds killing a group of teenagers. You know, terror isn't always killing. A zombie capturing an explorer. An explorer. That one has some promise. An alien attacking a high schooler. You know, unfortunately, I don't know if this is cultural or if this is a personal shortcoming, but I have a hard time drawing something that resembles a high schooler. I mean, visually representing somebody's age is kind of difficult unless you're doing adult versus small child. So I usually end up resorting to some anime tropes. You get a kid in a school uniform and all of a sudden they look like a high schooler. Let's keep that idea of the alien in mind. Skeleton attacking you. You know, I had a problem with aliens for a long time, all through high school. I'll share this story. I probably shouldn't. The guys at Area 51 tell me it didn't happen, but hey, what do they know? They weren't there. Or were they? Had a problem all through high school of being abducted on a regular basis and taken to a spaceship. Which is why... I shouldn't put my phone on camera. What am I doing? Which is why I don't believe in aliens. And I know that sounds weird, and the logic doesn't necessarily track, but hey, believe me, it does. So I'm going to need to sharpen this guy up a bit. Just a moment. Little off camera here. Scrape this pencil lead straight. Oh, this chisel's not working well. I don't have a... don't have a X-Acto knife within reach. There we go. Holding my chisel the wrong way. Now I'm getting some meat off this lead. And I don't like using pencil sharpeners really for my leads, just because they don't put the right angle on. I don't feel like I'm getting enough lead exposed for my buck. And pencils are so cheap. I mean, even these design pencils that you pay a lot more for, they're still actually really cheap. When you think about how much lead you're putting down on the paper, they are not that expensive. I know people worry about wasting lead, and you really shouldn't worry about that, especially when you're doing something creative like this. Your cost of the equipment per project is actually quite low. All right, let's go with different orientation today. Now that I have the right aspect ratio on my camera, which I didn't have yesterday, I can use my full canvas here. So an alien attacking you. Do I really want that to be me or just a you in general? My cat's name is You. I could use that to make a quite funny joke. The alien wouldn't like it. A rogue AI, the devil. A darkness spirit attacking a scientist. That one might work. Let's go with the alien and explorer. I think an alien chasing an explorer. Well, I could do that, but then I just remembered it would look a lot like Indiana Jones. So, let's do... Here's one threatening a scientist. An alien threatening a scientist. Does that sound interesting? How do we do threatening? If we do a scientist over here, he's probably going to be leaning over a beaker and then having to work on something here. Probably holding a test tube up in his hand with a beaker in the other hand. And he was probably studying it quite intently. Before suddenly being distracted and having to look over his shoulder. That's a very long neck. I'll fix that in post. And realizing he's being threatened by an alien who's... how does an alien threaten somebody? Waving a fist? What kind of alien have we got here? Maybe it's a reptilian alien. So he's got a kind of oblong-shaped head with a neck coming off like this. Kind of a serpentine-shaped body. Let's put its hips out in front. Shoulders back and elbows akimbo. And we'll have, they're probably about the same height. Boy, scientists have really bad posture. He probably needs to see a chiropractor. Let's move his head down right here. Somewhere around like this. And he's going to have a row of spikes up on his eyebrow ridge, down under his eye, probably an extra horn on its nose. Kind of like a bearded dragon. You make a row of spikes going across his jaw, and then off the front. Let's give him an underbite. Yeah. Oh, and I almost forgot the most important thing. I'm worried about going long on these videos, so I set up a stopwatch here so I could watch my time, and I never started it. So we're a couple minutes in right now. It's over here on my computer somewhere. 15 minutes in. So we're 15 minutes in right now, and I'm starting my clock. I'll just add 15 minutes to whatever the clock says. And hopefully we won't go over, let's call it a half an hour, maybe 40 minutes. We don't want this drawing to be too long. Like I said, I didn't do any warm-up drawings today. I had a job search function that I went to that took up most of my morning, which is why this is coming out late. And that kind of took up a lot of the time that I would have spent doing some warm-up exercises. Not that it makes a lot of difference. I didn't do any warm-up exercises yesterday. As I was talking about yesterday, I mostly just wanted to get started producing a drawing every day. So that kind of was my warm-up for yesterday. And it was really a warm-up for getting into the habit, and I want to stay in the habit. I want to try to get these videos out by noon every day, which means I should be filming around 10 a.m. 10 a.m. my time, Central Time. So keep an eye out for it. If you're not following me on Twitter, my warnings when I go live, I let it sit for about 5 minutes, so you'll have about a 5-minute warning before I actually start broadcasting. But that warning goes out over Twitter. And that's Ramdragon Art and Games on the Twitter. I think it's the Ramdragon, my original handle. There we go. Like reptile ears, they're kind of just this exterior membrane. I don't know how they can keep from getting punctured, but they're really cool. If you've ever seen the old movie Enemy Mine, one of my favorite old flicks, they have a really good reptile alien in that movie with the membrane ears, and I have no idea how they did the prosthetic, at the time that movie was made, prosthetics were not that advanced, and the prosthetics they made for those aliens were just incredible. I'm getting too caught up in the details of the face. I gotta finish sketching out this drawing. So this scientist is mostly threatened by the presence of the alien. Let's get him in a stiff collar shirt. There we go. With a tie. He's a stiff shirt guy, but he's also wearing a lab coat. I'm just trying to get some quick lines down to give me a guide. His elbow should be this high if he's holding his test tube over here. And this elbow. Recently watched some videos on making sketches from a guy who does storyboards. Now, when I was in school, what I really wanted to do was storyboard art. And I worked hard on getting my drawing skills sped up, and I never really got them fast enough that I was a very efficient storyboard artist. And I was always disappointed that I either didn't spend enough time doing it, or I didn't give myself enough credit for what I was capable of doing. But I did some storyboard freelance right after school, and it was always fun, and I wanted to get back into that, and I never really pursued it. And as you can see, I've lost a lot of my proficiency and skill with speed. But that's why I'm doing this. The video I was talking about, though, the guy was doing just really quick animation sketches. He had worked on some movies, Anastasia and such, traditional 2D animation. And he was talking about how quickly you can sketch out a drawing and really flesh out details very rapidly and very accurately using simple shapes. He called it the secret shapes of animation. And I should have spent some time doing some of those sketches. A couple weeks ago I was watching that. I said the other day earlier, but it was really a couple weeks ago I was watching that. I should have tried practicing some of that to see if I could get some of that speed back. It was what I went for in school, my degree. My degree is in animation, and I never pursued that as a career, unfortunately. Pursuing it now, trying to get, kind of one of the reasons I want to get these skills built back up again. Get his finger hooked around that, and the other one's curled. We want to have a real precise pour when we tip this over. But he's got a good hang on it because he does not want to spill whatever is in this test tube. Hopefully, whatever he's holding isn't exothermic to begin with, because boy, you could really burn yourself good holding a test tube like this. Get a chemical reaction going that you weren't expecting and fry your fingers right off. It's probably already smoking. That might be what the alien's upset about. Fume hoods. That's why the smoke's going off that way. Every scientist uses a fume hood. So we'll give this scientist a little bit of facial features here. We'll give him his ears. Set his eyes right here. nose. And he's got a little bit of weight on him, mostly carrying it in his face, because, you know, that's what scientists do. He's probably balding. He's got his hair combed straight back, so you can't tell how much he's balding. He's going to have his eyebrows up here. He's surprised. He's being threatened by that the presence of that alien. What's he doing here? Why isn't he in his cage? Some wide eyes. He's definitely threatened. Look at that. His eyes are popping right out of his head. And his jaw dropped down here so we can give him some mouth. Not quite screaming yet, but he's probably got his jaw dropped. What in the world? And it's probably a little bit jowly back here too. There we go. Getting some good detail, a little bit of a story going on already. Let's put hands on hips with our alien over here. He's kind of upset about whatever's going on. And he's probably standing comfortably. Let's give him, you know what? Let's give him some, I don't know what they're called really. Everybody says they're backwards knees, but they're not backwards knees. They're high ankles. But you know what I'm talking about, the animal foot, animal legs. So we got his knee going a little forward here, and then it goes back, and then to a foot here on the ground where he's kind of standing on his toes, like a raptor. There we go. He's probably got a wide stance because he's standing kind of comfortably. Just kind of wondering, what in the world are you doing, Mr. Scientist guy? We'll give him a separation of belly from back, because all reptiles seem to have something like that. Kind of indicate that a little bit here. And back down to here, we're getting his toes in. Probably he's an alien, so he might look like a reptile, but he's not really a reptile. So we'll give him a vestigial foot thumb there. I mentioned raptor earlier. Why not give him a nice little... He doesn't use it. His race doesn't really use it. But maybe they did descend from raptors. So give him a little tiny claw there. That's still in use. Might be just part of his boot. Who knows? A representation of his ancestral heritage. There we go. And other hand is probably going to be tucked back here, coming out. It'll be on this hip. There we go. And obviously we can't have a scientist being threatened by an alien unless we're in some place. Just keeping this drawing really loose right now. Let's put him in. Well, he needs a table really badly. I mean, what's he doing here? I should have picked up a reference before I started the drawing. Get some scientific equipment set out here, like a I don't know what any of this is called, but we'll probably have a bulb down here that's being heated by some alien device, because aliens have hot pads, but we're not advanced enough. We're going into a pipe, and it's going to, I don't know, fork off for some reason. I don't know what that's for, but it's going to go into a new bulb up here. Yeah, there we go. They're just kind of facing towards us. And then that's going to have a something siphon off the back end of it here. That goes into a coil, because every good scientist has a coil of something. It's not a very good coil. Let's straighten that out. Yeah, that's better. And that's going to be kind of in a tank of its own. I never set up any perspective in this drawing, so this is going to be a little wonky looking, but you know, it is what it is. So give the scientist his dress slacks. Going to be mostly straight leg, but down here at the bottom they're going to give a fold or something, because he's been standing all day. He hasn't really been paying attention to the state of his pants. He's a scientist. Why would he pay attention to the state of his pants? And some, I don't know, what do scientists wear? Do they wear sneakers? Do they wear dress shoes? I don't know. We'll just indicate some shoes for now. The lab coat's going to cover some of that up. So get the lab coat out there. They have this weird straight vertical pocket for some reason. I don't quite know what it's for, but I found out about that. I had a lab coat when I was a kid. I got a hold of a real lab coat from a real lab tech, and I wore it on occasion just because I was convinced at the time that I wanted to grow up and be a mad scientist. I had no idea that mad scientist was not a career choice. Got me in a little bit of trouble in high school. But this pocket isn't really a pocket. It's a slit that goes right through to the inside. And I don't know why you'd want to, if you're wearing a lab coat to keep junk off of you, you probably have stuff in your environment that you don't want in your pockets. So why would you be reaching through your lab coat into your pants pockets? I don't know. I don't get it. But that's what it is. That's how things were. So we'll give him his tie. That's an awfully long arm. Let's pretend we didn't notice. How are we doing on time? We're at 17 minutes since I started recording, so we're nearing the half-hour mark. Wow, just past the half-hour mark. So if we're going to get ink on this thing, we better start getting that on here soon. We'll get one finger out here and curl the rest under. We'll do the same thing over here. We'll have one finger that made it around to the front of his thigh. Indicate a pelvis bone there. A little bit of chest muscle, but the chest musculature is going to be slightly different than humans, so we won't indicate too much. We're going to continue this spike irregularly down side of his neck and maybe out onto his shoulder a little bit. It's just they're not really spikes, not really horns. They're, I don't know if you've ever owned a modified or a modified. You ever owned a modified pet? What am I trying to say? Bearded dragon. I don't know how I got modified out of that. There we go. Or anything like that. Any kind of horned reptile. If you've been near them and had a chance to actually kind of study them and look closely, you'd notice that their horns are just actually scales. Now this color difference that usually happens between the back and the belly goes out the jaw up a little bit along the jaw line. Kind of comes out the front a little. There we go. Alright. Let's go ahead and indicate the rest of this table. Like I said, I didn't indicate any at all. Foreshortening. I didn't put any of my perspective lines in, so I'm really fudging this right now. I mean, it's going to look... Please don't judge this merit on how this particular table looks. I got ahead of myself and started drawing before I did any of the homework that I need to do. That's a lesson to you, kids. Even when you're just arting, you gotta do your homework. And in this case, the homework is laying in the perspective lines. Even if it's not on the piece you're doing your final drawing, this is really more of a sketch. This would be something that I would have in school. I would have drawn this at half a page size just to lay out my characters. We're going to be inside a spaceship, so this big room is going to be round, and we're going to have a rib over here inside the spaceship. Let's say that the species goes a little bit on the organic side when they design their spaceships, because we want it to look like nothing the scientist would ever work in on Earth. Why is the alien kidnapping a scientist and having him work on his spaceship? Maybe the spaceship runs on diesel and they don't know how to make it anymore. That's why they're the aliens and we're the humans. They were smarter than us and got off of diesel. But not before their ancient spaceships were already running off of it. So maybe they're not better than us after all. And a nice big portal back here. I do want that to be roundy. That's just about the right size. Much better. That's the benefit of sketching. You can just throw lines wherever you want and see what you get out of it. These joints always leak. I've never seen one of these scientific apparatuses, whatever they're actually called, I have no idea, that has a connection between a glass pipe and a glass bulb. Oh, I didn't put anything in here. What's he heating up? Got to be heating something up. That doesn't leak at the joints. They're always quite leaky. We gotta have some liquid up here too, or else what's it doing? Okay. So out here, what's out the porthole? Let's say Earth is out the porthole here. Nice. Get Africa over here. We'll bless the rains there soon. Get a little bit of Saudi Arabia, and then India should be over here somewhere. Got the Mediterranean Ocean, Mediterranean Sea. So this is España, France. We'll go up into, let's get to UK and their little chain of islands, and then probably see Iceland and Greenland over here, and maybe just the very tip of South America, somewhere around there. We'll see a little bit of Antarctica and clouds, because there's always a, well, we've got a swirl out here right now in our Atlantic Ocean. It's actually, if you're watching the news, it's a possible hurricane heading straight for the UK. It's quite remarkable. I hope they do well. I hope it doesn't actually reach there. Down here in Houston, we just got hit by Imelda. If you're watching this in the future, we've just been hit by Tropical Storm Imelda, and just 2 years ago it was Hurricane Harvey. I didn't get Italy down here, but it's too small to really draw Italy. We'll just indicate some. Apparently, we'll indicate a cat head shape for for Europe and Asia here. Well, sure, whatever. Yeah, it looks like a cat. Why not? Why not? That's why we're obsessed with cat videos. The aliens are trying to figure that out. Yeah, he's probably kidnapped the scientists to figure out how to make cat videos. They're going to enslave the human race by learning how to make the cat videos that we so crave. Sure, why not? Let's go back to full palm contact with a beaker, because this is a professional scientist, and he's probably got his pinky out. There we go. Something along those lines. Let's give up on the pencil. Let's move to ink. See what we can actually get for Inktober. Oof. Back in 2002, I did a drawing. I was working for a company called Action Markers, and they did a promotional paintball marker that they sent out to a company that does laser etching. And they had me do a piece of art for it that they were going to laser etch on the side of that paintball marker. So I laid the paintball marker down on a piece of paper, and I traced it out in a 1-to-1 ratio of my art to the paintball marker, and proceeded to draw this really intricate dragon head. And I ended up drawing, I spent, hours and hours and hours drawing every stinking scale on that dragon. And I used a .001 one of these Stadler marker to draw in every single one of those scales. And we sent it off to the laser engraver, and we'd asked about the capabilities of their engraver. And they basically said what they do is they scan it in as a bitmap. This is early 2000s. Scan it in as a bitmap, so they get a 1-to-1 bitmap picture, a raster image of the art. and then their laser would go through and scan across and pulse just every time it hit, like a printer would do. Every time it came to a place where there would be a line, it would pulse a dot there. So it was really like a series of laser pointillism that we were going to be getting out of that. It wouldn't turn on the laser and then drag the laser across to draw out the image. You'd need a vector image to do that, and they had asked us for a drawing, so they were going to use a raster version of it. But they basically told us that there was no limit to the complexity of the drawing or any such thing. And I took that as a personal challenge. And I drew, like I said, every stinking scale on that dragon. From the tip of its nose all the way down to the mid of its shoulders, which went off the back of the marker. So it's just the head and neck mostly that I was drawing on the marker. And it was 7 inches long and 2.5 inches tall. The body of this paintball marker. And sent it off, and they give us a call back, and they said, we need to have the original artwork at full size in order to scan it in. I had drawn it so intricately and so tightly that their scanner could not match the resolution I had drawn it at. Oh, I spent hours and hours and hours on that. So what they ended up doing was they put it on a really good laser printer, which had a scan bed function built into it, and scanned it at 4 times the size. And even then, they had to break it down. So they printed it out. They blew it up to 4 times the size, printed it out at 4 times the size, and then they had to break it down into 4 separate pieces. They had to cut that picture and scan it on their laser, the scanner for their laser, which was much smaller than the Xerox scan bed. But what we ended up getting on the marker was looked great. It looked incredible. I was talking about these glass works before, and I don't know what they're called, or looks like some kind of a distilling setup, but they always have a cork in one end for some reason. Like if you're going to make highly accurate scientific equipment, you'd think you could close off an end without shoving a rubber cork down it. There we go. But I've seen these things, these tubes and these bulbs being made, and golly, the glass blowers that make these things. I mean, these have to be highly precise scientific equipment. And like these bulbs here, they do, the neck comes out of a mold, and then there's like a piece off the bottom. And a real glass blower sticks that in the oven and actually blows that bulb out. And they have depending on what they're making, they have a model of it on their workbench. And they set it next to it and just see if it matches. Like there's no real measuring. They eyeball the whole thing. And we're sitting here sending these things off to pharmaceutical companies for highly accurate chemical processes. It just blows my mind how things are actually done and what people can do. Human creatures are just absolutely amazing. Yes, I said human creatures. I'm sitting here still talking to myself. There's nobody in the chat. There's nobody in the chat. So I'm still talking to myself. But when I post this up to YouTube, I'm sure somebody will get amused by it. And if not, if I amuse myself, then that's 3/4 of my goal in the first place. Need a straight edge, and I don't use these for anything useful, so straight edge it becomes. A few years ago, I was likewise unemployed, and I was going to try to be an artist, one of those artists that go out to conventions and make money just setting up a booth and selling whatever they felt like making that week. So I hit a couple of art shows, and the one thing that I really needed for those art shows was a business license from the state of Texas and a business name. So I formed Workload Studios and printed out these cards. I still use the name Workload Studios. I've done some production work as Workload Studios, and pretty much anytime I have to buy and sell anything through PayPal, it's as Workload Studios. So it's not entirely defunct yet. It's still out there. And it may come back someday. I may, as I grow my YouTube channel, I may decide to turn it into an actual production branch. We'll see how things work out. That's all future worries. That's nothing I can do right now. I just realized the whole time I've been tracing this table, got my hand right in the way of the camera. You probably can't see anything that I'm doing. Sorry about that. This is the most boring part of the show. There we go. All I was doing was using it to lay in a few reference points so I could make straight legs that generally look like they belong to the same table. And since this is alien technology, they can manage to make straight table legs. Which I suppose means they get most of their stuff from IKEA. So there's another thing that just blows my mind at the ingenuity and capability of human creatures. IKEA furniture, man. They get really complicated pieces of furniture, and they just kind of basically simplify the lines. They don't do a whole lot to the design to make it that incredible. But what they do is they then figure out how to pack everything flat. When you unpack it and build it, you're going, man, how did they make this flat? That's just completely nuts. And that's the world we live in. Ooh, I might have to get my I don't know if I have an ink bottle anymore. I bet that thing's hard as a rock now. Try to fill in the space here. So we'll get some outline of the smoke. So once I fill this window in with black, none of these exterior lines are going to match or matter. There we go. This indicates some floofy flowiness to it. This marker is just not marker, pen. It's just a little bit on the dry side. It's a few years old, but I don't use them often enough to really wear them out. But being a few years old, it is what it is. Again, this is one of the reasons why I want to be drawing every day. I don't otherwise. So if you want to stick with me through the whole month of Inktober and see if I can improve my skills any, see how well this exercise works to improve my skills, and hopefully I might even produce some works that I can put in my portfolio. One of the big issues I have, big regrets I should say, is I've let my portfolio just kind of grow old. I've been working in IT for so long that I never really gave my portfolio much consideration. And as a result, I have nothing really current in my portfolio. I've got some things I've worked on in the last few years on my DeviantArt, but I haven't really worked on it diligently. And that's going to be the part that really kills me as I look for work, is that I don't have proof of skills because I've let my portfolio lapse so badly. And I'm just kind of indicating those land masses. Give ourselves a little tiny Antarctic there. And no, I'm not making any political commentary. I'm just being funny. Okay, how are we doing on time? 40 minutes. Oh, geez, we're creeping up on our hour here. So I'm going to give this another 6 minutes, because I don't want a video that goes on for too long. You know what? Forget it. I'll just keep going as long as I'm drawing. And I'll cut it down for YouTube. Never was really good at mouths. I never could understand why. They're not a complicated shape. Just for some reason, every time I draw a mouth, it just doesn't look like a mouth. Even if I try to cartoon and stylize it, I don't know. It's something I have to work on. Okay, our high eyebrows because he's scared out of his gourd, and a forehead that just kind of moves into a hairdo. Poor guy's thinning out. Look at that. Oh man. Probably in his youth he had long hair, and he kept putting it up in a man bun, and that's his punishment, is now he doesn't have hair. because that's what you get when you have hair and you're a dude and you put it up in a man bun. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but that style doesn't look good on anyone. There we go. And this guy's a scientist, so if he knows what is or isn't good, he would know. He's a scientist. He's a scientist who wears ties. You know, I've often wondered about that too. You watch TV shows, and all of the scientists are depicted wearing dress clothes in the laboratory. I mean, boy, that arm really did end up a lot longer than I expected. And why would you be mixing volatile chemicals with a tie on? You get a little bit of that nitrate something or other on your necktie, and next thing you know, you're spreading Ebola everywhere you walk. I don't know how Ebola works or what nitrate is, but hey, there you go. If anybody from boy, this pen is really not working out well. If anybody from Asylum Productions is watching, there's a movie idea for you. A scientist gets something on his tie and spreads a zombie plague or something. Oh, it's a silent film, so he probably spreads a hurricane filled with mechanical zombies. But if you want somebody to write it, hey, hit me up. I'll write that movie for you. There we go. Get our straight pant legs in. He's got the remnants of a crease still there. Not too defined anymore. I think my tip is splitting. I keep getting... You can't quite see it from that camera. It's a little too far away, but I'm getting two lines next to each other every time I try to draw in the wrong direction. We'll get our shoes on. Oh man, this guy's wearing cuffs to work. Pant cuffs. Working around chemicals. What is wrong with this guy? You know what? You want a horror story? That's the horror story. Pant cuffs on dress pants. Whew, that's a little bit of a reach to get a straight line. What I'm doing, I'm kind of cheating my straight line a little bit. I don't know if you can see on camera, but I've got my pinky curled up and I'm running my knuckle right along the edge of my page there. But that gives me a way to kind of draw a straight line in relation to the edge of my book here. And that's okay when I'm doing close lines. I can put a finger here and kind of brace it right against the finger that's holding my pen, make a straight line right here. This is kind of a reach. I'm getting a little springiness in my hand that's making it hard to make sure that line is nice and straight. I should have just grabbed my card again and used that. Card again, not cardigan. not Mr. Rogers. There we go. All right. Oh, so what are we coming up on? Over an hour. Oh, we made a lot of headway in the last 6 minutes. We got the whole scientist pretty much roughed in. Let's get his handheld equipment here finished. We get some weird refractions in the lips and necks of these kind of beakers. There we go. Whew! We are not cruising along, that's for sure. Let's get that. So there are two things that go through my head when I hear the phrase, let's get. And the first, most immediate one is dangerous. So anyone who grew up in the 90s knows exactly what let's get dangerous is. And the second one that goes through my head almost immediately afterwards is down to business. And yes, once that starts happening, I have to do the whole song. I won't torch you all by actually singing it. This is actually quite a lot harder to trace than I expected it to be. I don't know what goes under that. I'll have to figure that out later. We're running down on time for what I wanted to do today. Really wish I had done a few minutes of sketches before starting in on this. So tomorrow I'm going to start this broadcast at 10 o'clock, 10 a.m. and probably broadcast until noon, after which I'll put it up on YouTube, on my YouTube channel there. Ramdragon Art and Games is my YouTube channel. I think it's back to Ramdragon Studios now. So if you'd like to join me tomorrow for this little sketch session, it'll be a marathon, kind of like today, but probably end up with something a little more interesting than this. And I'll actually look up the prompts, the Inktober prompts for tomorrow. Because, like I said yesterday, I'm mostly wanted to start doing this so I would draw every day and get something down on paper. And I don't normally do inks in the first place. One of the reasons for that is I don't like to color because I'm quite colorblind. Yeah, that actually shows up pretty well, that line. I drew that kind of light with the pen, but it still shows up. Alright. And You know what? I never indicated what a lizard would wear. Probably a formal collar, because he's on a ship. Yeah, they'll stick off his neck a little bit. We don't need sleeves. Marisha Ray will tell you exactly why aliens don't need sleeves. Um, I think even when we're living in space, I've heard people who have interesting ideas of what space culture will be like. We'll be living in controlled environments all the time, and we'll outgrow the need for clothing. And that's the theory behind why aliens appear as tall, thin, gray, and nude. But the nudity's not a big deal because they got nothing to worry about being nude with. And it's because they've grown beyond the need. I don't know why I'm doing that like Carl Sagan. They've grown beyond the need for clothing, and as a result, they've grown beyond the need for modesty. Or perhaps the other way around. I don't know. I stop listening when people start talking about junk like that. But really, I don't think we'll ever get past the need for footwear. Even living on a spaceship, like the Starship Enterprise, you've got perfect environmental control in every room of the ship, every square inch of every room. Perfect environmental control. You would think that would mean no real need for clothing, but clothing goes beyond what they can do. I mean, it goes into, well, I guess it also does more than just covers your butt. But perhaps it's also a way to indicate individuality, and that's almost as important as being able to cover your butt. I mean, for someone like me, I talked a little bit about it yesterday. I may have talked about it yesterday, I don't remember. Slightly on the Aspie scale. I have a hard time looking people in the eyes to begin with. And one of the side effects of that is if I run into somebody outside of a familiar environment, like if I meet somebody from school at the supermarket, I usually have no idea who they are. And I have to sit there and pretend like I know exactly who they are. So I've gotten used to talking to people without knowing their names and trying to not give up the fact that I've got no clue who you are. So if I've done that to you and you're watching this now and you're going, oh, is that why he's like that? I do apologize. It's just a thing. Something that I've had to deal with pretty much my entire life. It's not anything that I expect anybody else to have to deal with in my behalf. But now you know. kind of indicated these a little too loosely, and I didn't really give myself a lot of guide to figure out what I was talking about. There we go. So what was I talking about? I'm sure I ended right in the middle of a sentence somewhere and never got back around to the topic. Clothes on spaceships. If we ever do build spaceships, it will not be long before we build multi-generational spaceships. Multi-generational spaceships means children. And children means there will be Legos all over the place. It does not matter how secure you make a bridge on a multi-generational starship. Some kid is going to lose their Legos on the bridge. And a barefoot Captain Picard is going to step on it. So yeah, I don't think, for practical reasons, there's ever any expectation that a spacefaring species, should ever outgrow the need for protective clothing. We'll give him black boots, why not? Oh man, I'm kind of excited. Back in school, I played a lot of, I didn't play a lot of different video games, but the one video game I did play a lot of was City of Heroes. And I loved it. I tried to play WoW a few times, and every now and then the free week gameplay comes along, and I still have an active profile on the website with, who is that? Blizzard? And when the free week comes around, I'll go in and I'll try to play it, but man, I just never could really get into it. I played a lot of Warcraft back when it was a strategy game, real-time strategy, RTS. There's not a lot of them left anymore. I think StarCraft and a few smaller knockoff titles of StarCraft are pretty much it. But I really liked those games. But World of Warcraft, I couldn't get into it. And nothing against it, nothing against anybody who plays World of Warcraft. It's just kind of my experience with it was less than positive. In that I found it boring. I honestly found the game utterly boring. I lost interest in it before I hit level 6. And for me, the way that I play, that means usually within a couple of hours. So I never went back to it. Never tried to really pursue it. And like I said, I try it when it's free, just to see if I can gain an interest in it. And the result is I never really do. And there we go. Time to stop the stream. So I'll finish this up, put a thumbnail up. Thank you all for joining me today. And out.